What's up, everyone, and welcome to Shared Save, Episode 5, Save the Game Media's weekly gaming podcast. I am your host, Kevin, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Sam Heaney. Today, we're going to be talking about a rumored state of play. Helldivers is an Xbox success, and Silksong's here, everyone. In case you didn't know, Silksong has officially released. Before we get to that and more, Sam Heaney, my co-host, how are you, my friend?
I'm all right, man. I mean, we were talking just before we went live. I think we're both in the same pool of just sort of feeling a bit exhausted, mostly both due to work as well. You know, it's just one of those weeks. But I can talk about what I'm working on today, so that's fun. And it's, as I said last week, it's always a pleasure. It gives me a bit of energy coming on and doing the show with you. So it's the highlight of my week, or one of the highlights. I'm not that sad. I do have other things outside of the show.
This is all you look forward to every single week.
Yeah. How are you then, my friend?
Yeah, as you're saying, I'm definitely exhausted. I've been describing it to my fiance. I'm like, I'm really burnt out. It's like just everything. It's like I come home, I'm like, oh, I gotta do this. I'm on the chore list, and then before I know it, it's been like 2 hours of just doing chores on top of work, and I'm like, oh man, like I need to just sit down and not do anything for like an entire day coming up. Which is good because I put a time request in for Trails in the Sky. I was like, I'm taking a long weekend. I'm gonna do nothing but play Trails in the Sky. All right, I'm blocking it off. That's gonna be my recharge time in September. So hopefully that works out. But yeah, other than that, it's obviously a big day for a lot of gamers. I see Rick Davis chilling with us, playing Silksong as we speak, he says. Sam Hall, Nissa Hauer is here. Nissa, let me know in the chat, all right? But you frequent the podcasts, our friends' shows, and I always hear them call you Nissa Howard. I hear it at the trophy room. I hear Luke do it over at XCP. I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's Nissa. I don't know where they're getting the knee from, but you let me know if I'm saying your name wrong. Which one of us is right, me or them? All right, that's a little. I just gotta know. I listened to the trophy room this morning. Shout out Joe. Shout out Kyle. Shout out Light. And they said that, and I was like, oh, that's not how I say her name. But anyway, let's get to the housekeeping for this show.
You're right. You're right, Kev. You're right. Nissa,
right?
Like Melissa.
Thank you. All right. Justified. Now we can get into the housekeeping for this show. This is Shared Save, our gaming discussion podcast. We are live every Thursday on youtube.com/save the game media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Sunday for public audio feeds. If you are over on those public feeds, please drop us that 5-star review. It means the world to us. It helps us climb those algorithms, gets us in the charts, all that good stuff. If you want to support us even further, get early audio access. I said early, that's not even a word. Oh man. Early audio access to all Save the Game Media content and exclusive bonus content. Head over to patreon.com/Save the Game Media. Choose the tiers right for you, like our current supporters. So thank you to Savoy Prime, Sam Hall, Todd Oxtra, Alpaca Tom, Rick Davis, Silkinit, Dave Harp, David Hotright, Lillian, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Marcus O'Neill, Brendan Myers, aka The Winter Gamer, Nikolai at Night, Fabulous Brianna's mom, Brandon, and Black Wyver. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. Sam, we are officially in the onslaught of game releases. First week of September, they're all here. And you've been playing one that you can finally talk about. So why don't we jump into what we've been playing?
Yeah, so I'm currently knee deep into coverage for Hell is Us. I've been playing it for the past couple of weeks. And I must say, and I sort of alluded to this in the Discord, it doesn't give a great first impression. Like, I think the first 2, 3, maybe 4 hours are actually, I hesitate to say bad, but like not great, just quite abrasive, very slow. But on the flip side, I powered through that as I had to. And I think Hell is Us is actually pretty great.
Really?
Yeah. I'm certainly on the higher end of the positive reviews. So, and that's surprising because I really wasn't expecting anything from it. But yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, it's obviously difficult having to cover it for IGN. That sort of instantly warps my experience with it. But still, it's kind of got everything that I'm looking for. It's the Goldilocks of not being too handholdy where it's just boring, and not being so free roam and free form that it's frustrating. I think it's hit that perfect balance in a way that a lot of games honestly don't pull off. So I'm really impressed. I'm loving it.
So I got some more questions about Hell's Us, but I see Rick Davis says, I actually got my copy of Hell's Us almost 2 weeks ago. It came
Whoa.
really early for some reason. I ordered the deluxe physical from Nacon directly.
That might be why. That is
It-
crazy though.
That's like that might be before you got it,
Yeah.
actually.
Yep.
Reviewers be damned. So for those unfamiliar, how would you describe Hell Is Us? Like Souls like? What kind of genre would you fit this into? Because I pulled it up on OpenCritic, currently sitting at an 80, 85% of people recommend. So it's got good reviews. Like overall, it seems to be a good game. But there seems to be a lot of people mixed on what's the combat like. Is it good? What's the exploration like? If they prefer certain methods. So what is Hell Is Us?
It's an action game. I almost want to say an action puzzle game, and I guess that is the best way to frame it. I think there was conversation that like 50% of the game is combat, 50% is exploration. I don't think that's quite the case. I would say it leans more on the exploration side.
Really? Okay.
And I would say that the combat isn't great. Like it's not bad, but it's just nothing special. It doesn't really evolve in any meaningful way. The enemies are very basic as well. There's only a handful of variants. But what it does with exploration, which I think is the main reason to play the game, is, as you may or may not have heard, is that like there's no map, there's no quest markers, there's no objectives really. You just go out and you speak to people and you pick up and you listen to things, and you do have a data pad that sort of takes very rudimentary notes, but you don't have any guiding hands. And that sounds like a frustrating thing, but the way that the game frames it, because it has lots of different zones that you visit on a map, it's not one big open world.
Okay.
And the level design of each of those zones, I think, is fantastic. In a sense where it's kind of, and don't get too excited, it's kind of like Expedition 33, where a lot of sections of these zones are actually pretty linear. You'll have a corridor and you might have an offshoot of a corridor, but more often than not, it will just loop back around, or it'll be a dead end where you find a collectible or a bit of gear or something. But in the same way that wasn't really a problem in Expedition 33, it's not really a problem here. And in the wider spaces of these zones, everything is spaced out just enough where you can always see something in the distance. So you're not really going to be aimlessly wandering around. You're always going to be probably heading towards something with an idea of, this probably relates to this. So I'm going to go see and check and see if I can, maybe this piece of paper with a note or a code that I've got written down, maybe that can be used here. It's very, very freeform, not emergent, because everything is sort of predetermined. Nothing's randomized here. But yeah, it's a very unique game, and tonally very dark, but an action puzzler is where I would place it.
Okay, that's I was expecting more Souls, because that's what I think it was
No.
described as in previews. People really were leaning into that, and that kind of steered me. I think I even told Kyle, I was like, I think this is a Souls like game. I don't think this is for you. It seems to be more like Breath of the Wild, exploration focused. Clearly not very different tones, because I've
Sure.
heard there's some dark subject matter in this game
Yes.
as well.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like a game I would be into, but it does sound very like old school style. Like I think of NES JRPGs where you have to run through the town, talk to everyone. Like old school Dragon Quest games are kind of like that. I know one of the big features for the updates, the remakes they've been doing, it's like, oh, we'll give you a quest marker now in case you want to know where to go. Because before in those older games, it is very much like you're going to talk to people, you're going to try to piece together stuff. I would say Golden Sun is kind of like this as well. If anybody's ever played like those games, it sounds like they've taken a lot of inspiration from that kind of game design.
Yeah, and I think like anybody that describes it as a Souls-like is falling into that trap that we're seeing more often nowadays of people saying, "Oh, well, it's got a block, a dodge, and a perfect parry, so it's a Souls-like." It's like, no, you don't lose currency when you die. You don't, nothing. There isn't super punishing bosses. There isn't really even bosses in the game.
Well, I know I've been told Expedition 33 is a Souls-like. Ninja
Exactly.
Gaiden's definitely that's a Souls-like.
So
yeah,
it's very, very loosely used nowadays, and it certainly doesn't fit Hell Is Us.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. How much more coverage do you think you got of Hell Is Us? Because I know you're liking it, but I don't want the Wu Chang effect,
I know. Yeah, absolutely. I would say so. There's 3 acts. I'm at the tail end of Act 2. I could have been done with like the main game, as naturally is the case with most of my projects. I could have been done with that long ago. But because of what I'm having to do and how meticulously slow I'm having to take it, I'm only about to enter the final act. And from my understanding, the final act is quite short. So I think I've done the majority of stuff here. It's just compiling it now and getting it formatted into the guide. And as you can imagine, considering there are no quest markers or objectives or tracking really of much stuff, that's the real meat of the work here. It's finding a way to format it in a way that will make sense, and to make sure that people don't miss stuff. Because this is a game, again, this can be frustrating, where it can be very, very easy to miss things. Not like pivotal things in terms of progress for main story, but if you're looking to experience like all of the sort of side quests and speak with all the NPCs and get all the gear, you can miss stuff quite easily.
Is there choice and consequence in this game? Is it like a
no?
It's telling a story, and that's the story.
Yeah, you have like dialogue options in conversation with NPCs, but they're not like choices where you pick one and you can't pick the others. You're just asking them like questions about different topics. You don't have to ask them, but you'll get additional information, or you might get an insight into specifically where to go for a certain thing. So that's down to you, but there's no real, I don't think this is the kind of game that's going to have different endings, for example.
Okay. Well, Hell Is Us is it out? It's out now?
Yeah, it came out officially yesterday. It was early access.
Like I couldn't remember if it was tomorrow or when the early access began. So it is out now. You can jump into it. It's on everything, I believe, as well. So
it is. Yeah, hearty recommend from me, which is surprising and that's the best thing. It's the same way of like, we weren't expecting all that much from Expedition 33. Like, it looked cool, but we were like, oh my God. And this is not quite to the extent of, oh my God, of Expedition 33, but I'm very pleasantly surprised. So
that was best kind of games.
Amen.
Well, I see you got some other things here. You want to chat about some of these other games?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of them are very quick. I've just played a little bit more of Peak this week. I've done a couple of solo runs. I'm just trying to get all the badges, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not worrying about ascents, like the sashes. Kyle, you pop off, my guy, you do what you want. I'm going to stay on Tenderfoot, and I'm just going to try and get all the badges. So, yeah, nothing really to report there. Still having a good time with it. I have also, as you alluded to at the top of the show, it is Silksong Day. I have spent the majority of the day on Hell Is Us, but I did for about an hour and a half before we started tonight. Got in a little bit of playtime just to start it off, and it's really good. I think obviously I need more time to marinate and actually sink into it properly. But I've beaten 2 bosses in the first couple of areas. And yeah, it looks very promising, as I think everybody expected it to be. So we'll be hearing more of that, I'm certain, in the weeks to come, probably months as well. Jesus Christ. And then the other thing that I've been playing, which I want to give a shout out to, is a game called Wavetale.
Wavetale.
Yeah, it's a very indie game. And it's so I've prophesized about the Pathless and Giant Squid's other games in terms of like the movement and sort of freedom of expression. And after finishing Sword of the Sea the other week, I was sort of itching for a bit more of that. Full disclosure, I have played Wavetale before, but I re-downloaded it and played through it again this week.
I was gonna say, this is 2022. I'm pretty sure we got PR for this back when it was coming out.
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of a guilty pleasure of mine, where it's just a very, very simple game, very light combat, but it's a lot about the movement, where you can sort of glide along the water in this sort of semi-open world. And it's really charming, and it's one of those things where, again, I was sort of aching for that movement that Sword of the Sea gave me, and it was going to scratch the itch. That's all it was. But I would highly recommend it to people if they look it up and think it looks interesting. I think it's well worth it. Very cheap game as well. So
yeah, I just saw it. You could get a Wavetale and The Gunk, which is a game I actually really enjoyed. Didn't review all that well, but I thought it had some enjoyable traversal and collectathon elements. But it was like $383. I think you get both of them for right now on Steam. So if you're looking for cheap games. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad you've had a full week of gaming. I have also been diving into lots of games, maybe 2 games primarily. So I think I'll start with. Let's start with Lost Soul aside. All right.
Okay.
So this game came out last week, right? Last Friday, I believe, is when it came out. I have beat Lost Soul aside. Yes, it took me about 15 hours to roll credits on Lost Soul side. It is a very linear game. Some say it's. I've heard some people say it's the mind's eye to Grand Theft Auto. This is like the equivalent, like Lost Soul side to Final Fantasy.
Okay.
And I don't personally agree with that comparison. I think there is a lot of issues with Lost Soul side, but I also think that overall it's a pretty good game. So for those unfamiliar and thinking, oh, this is a JRPG game, it's not a JRPG. This is a character action game through and through. This is about, combos, flashy move sets, movement. Think Ninja Gaiden, Bayonetta, those types of platinum-esque games, right? So I think it's had people's expectations a little out of whack. I think they were expecting like a Final Fantasy 15 because it is very aesthetically looking like that. You look like you're in a boy band, right? So Lost Soul aside has a lot of issues, and I see Rick pointing out some of them. A terrible story for one. Yes, the story is, I wouldn't say terrible. I would say generic and mediocre. Like, it's not the worst thing ever. It is very simplistic. Your sister's soul gets taken by a monster. You set off on a quest to get her back, end up saving the world, essentially. Like, it's a very generic Japanese story.
What are you talking about? I've never heard that
No.
kind of thing ever before.
No. Yeah. I played on PlayStation 5, and the performance is pretty bad. If you're looking for a game that runs smoothly, this is not it. Even with the day one patch, which they delayed reviews for, right? Like, they told everyone, hey, don't put out reviews. We have a big day one patch coming. It's going to fix a lot of issues, improve technical capabilities. So nobody got their reviews. I think there's some. I'm pretty sure there's reviews now. I think it's like a 60 something. Yeah, not great, not great. I think it's a little better than that. I would put it towards in the high sevens for me personally.
Okay.
Once you went through everything, but in terms of performance, like you get frame rate drops quite often. Not in combat though, which is probably good. Like combat is pretty smooth, but just running around the world, going from area to area, you like it is pretty common to just see drops all over the place. There's some low res textures. Like sometimes it looks like a PlayStation 3 game.
Mhm.
I often described it as, you know how Rebirth people would set on performance mode, it had the Vaseline
Yeah,
face.
sort of
Yeah, this
fuzzy,
this is that
blurry.
bumped up to like 11. Like
Right.
everything is Vaseline on performance mode. I see Rick saying he doesn't have the FPS issues on PS5 Pro, so that's good to hear. Like I said, I'm on base PS5. I know it had some optimization issues on PC. I saw people talking about as well. So just be
Mm.
aware of that. There are still some technical hiccups here and there. It has some platforming, which is always tricky in these types of games, especially for a smaller, like mainly a solo developer. Brought in a team of I think up to 30-ish people to help him with the game over the years. And it's funny, in the credits they actually go year by year and say this is who worked on it in
Oh,
every single
interesting.
year. Yeah, never seen that done. It was very few people each year. Um, Platforming's not great. It feels very just janky almost,
Sure.
and it gets better once you get a double jump and a triple jump, but like there's a few too many platforming puzzles that require like precision. Like, oh, this platform's decreasing in size and you kind of got to land on it perfectly, or like do these tight knit movements that don't really work in a game like this for the platforming. So my issues are really just the technical issues. I think the platforming could be better, even though I think it gets better as you get more abilities. The story's generic, but I do think like I was interested in the lore of the world. I think some of the characters, not the main characters, some of the side characters, I would be interested to learn more about them. I like their character designs. Like artistically, I think there's a lot going on for it. But at the end of the day, this game is really just about combat. If you're looking for a
Mm.
good hack and slash character action game, I really enjoyed this one. Like I had a fun time with it. I'm not saying like, hey, go buy it right now for $60, but if you're looking for this down the line, once they've had some patches, I would recommend it at a cheaper price. I used a gift card on it, so like I didn't spend any real money, if you want to look at it that way, but I enjoyed my time with it, and I think reviews are being a little harsh on it.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard from a few people who are on the sort of more positive end of the spectrum that the real issue is the price.
Mm-hmm.
That if it was like a $40 thing, then you know many would argue that's negligible, but and that it seems the game does have actual issues beyond that. But if it was a slightly more budget title, then I think that the general consensus might have been a lot more forgiving than it seems to be.
Yeah, I look at something like this year. We've had games like Expedition 33, Hell is Us, Silksong, even though like that's an even smaller team releasing at a smaller price. But like you have these games that are undoubtedly of higher quality coming out at lower price points than this is coming out. And I wonder how much Sony's involvement played a part in that. If they really were
Sure.
like, well, this is, we've put some money into this for our China Hero project. Like we're gonna try to recoup as much as possible. I don't think it's selling very well. Unfortunately, I know I saw a report that the developers did like a live stream to promote it in Japan, and after the stream, they sold 4 copies. So I don't think it's doing very well, unfortunately. For me, the China Hero project is pretty good. Like
Mhm.
Fist, I thought was really good.
Yep.
This one, I really enjoyed my time with. I don't think this is the quality of Fist. I think that whole game was much more polished. But I'm excited to see what these hero projects keep putting out.
Yeah, I'm a staunch advocate for the hero projects. I think that it's probably one of the smartest things that PlayStation is doing currently. Um, and again, like not all of them are going to be winners in the exact same way of like the live service strategy. Like not all of them are going to pan out, but you do get some real bangers, and even those that don't work out, you would hope that it isn't a complete sort of tire fire for the developers, in the sense that it's a learning experience and they've had that support, and maybe they can go on to bigger and better things. And it seems from what you're saying that like the combat in the game is strong enough that if it was implemented in a game where they sort of made revisions and improvements to the things that weren't quite working here, you could have something pretty damn excellent. So
Yeah, I this feels like a game that if you gave him a second attempt with a bigger budget, I think you get a much better product, because reportedly this game was made for like $9 million. I think they said the budget was.
right.
Apparently, I don't know how true this is, but I saw that it was actually rebooted in 2020. So people
Yep.
are like, oh, it's been in development for 10 years. They rebooted it in 2020. So 5 years really. But like before, it was an open world, I guess, and had a lot of technical issues. They couldn't make that work. They went to a more linear character action game, which still I think the budget is playing a little here. But like I said, I recommend it at a cheaper price, probably. Again, think reviews are a little harsh on it.
Sure.
But we can jump over to the other game that I've been playing, and I did beat this one as well. I rolled credits on it today, and that is Shinobi Art of Vengeance, another game that just came out. So I grabbed this one. I think it was one of the Wario 64 Planet Play Labor Day sales. They had it for $20, so it was $10 off. It's only a $30 game, right? So I was like, I'll grab it. I think this is sitting at currently like an 88, 87 on Open Critic, getting glowing reviews. I was interested in Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, right? I'm more of a 3D Ninja Gaiden gamer. But then I saw this one, and like I've been in love with the art style of this game since it was shown off, right? Like I think it's absolutely stunning. And I'm here to say the game is just as good as the art style, because this is right up there in my game of the year discussion.
Wow.
I don't think it's my game of the year, but it's going to be somewhere in our top, I don't know, top 5, top 10, whatever we do it. I don't know the placement yet. Probably have to sit on it and go through what else I've played, but this game is absolutely phenomenal. I think the art style, the soundtrack, the combat and movement is so fluid, so responsive. It's exactly what you want from an action platformer. I played on PC. I had 240 frames per second the entire solid the entire time I played the game. Absolutely fantastic. The so you play as Joe Musashi, obviously the main character of Shinobi. It's a very simplistic story, I would say. I think the voice acting is pretty good, to be honest. I've seen some complaints about it. I thought it was decent throughout. The main character only goes, huh. So he doesn't say anything, but like the supporting characters are there. Basically, he sets off on a mission to avenge his clan. It's basically the same story as Ninja Gaiden. But Shinobi, so he does that. What I thought was really interesting about this game, because looking at it, I'm like, oh, this is a Metroidvania, right? It kind of is, and it kind of isn't. So it's level based, and each level is sort of a mini Metroidvania, which I thought was really interesting. So each level, you'll be able to progress throughout it no matter what you do. Like you'll be able to clear the level. There'll just be certain things you'll have to progress further in the game, get new abilities, and then go back to those levels to get through like a wall you couldn't punch down or dive through before. That's if you're looking to 100% it. You can completely beat the game without going back to any of the levels. But the level design is fantastic. It's not confusing. It's easy. Like the map is very clear. It's always like, oh, I haven't been there yet. And you can get around so fast because, like I said, they're very condensed Metroidvanias. This isn't one of those like, oh, I'm way down here and I have to squiggle up through the spaghetti and get all the way to the top left, right? It's just like, oh, I just have to go up a few layers of a wall jump up here and I'll be like somewhere I haven't been. So I thought that was fantastic. And the boss fights, challenging, but fair.
Okay.
I was really worried because I heard some people, oh, the difficulty is a bit much. I would say the basic, like navigating throughout the world, is pretty easy. Like I never really had any challenge with any of the normal enemies. This is much more of a combo based game as opposed to Ninja Gaiden, Ragebound, where that's like one slash, they're dead, right? This is more like, hey, you're gonna mix and match directions with the X and Y button to do different combos. Like one of my favorite was like slashing them, hitting them up in the air, doing a drop kick, and then diving at like just really cool, visually stunning things like that. Kind of Smash Bros esque if you're
Yeah.
if you're
Okay.
into that. So I really love the combat, and I thought it was fair throughout, easy normally, but challenging bosses that have different like phases, move sets that you kind of have to be aware of. So I would highly recommend anyone that's into action platformers, Metroidvanias, pick up Shinobi, play it. It's one of the best games this year.
I mean, I was going to check it out at some point, but you sold me. It's honestly, I think it's the game I would probably be playing now if all the other games weren't coming out at the same time, you know? Because I agree with you that as soon as I saw it, art style, and obviously just sort of generally appreciating Shinobi as an IP, I was eager to check out. So I'm glad that it's resonating.
One last thing. One of my favorite mechanics in this game is the executions. So
Oh,
if you get enemies low enough, you can execute them no matter where you are on the screen. And there's ways to get the little, I think it's like a kanji symbol appears above their head when you can do it. But if you throw kunai at them, it increases the chance of putting them in an execution state, and you can get
mm,
upgrades. So the thing I was doing is I grabbed an upgrade that let my kunai go through multiple enemies. So I would line them up, kunai them all, and then have like 4 or 3 in a row, and then execute all of them at once. And that restores your kunai, restores your health, gives you coins, like just really cool things that if you're looking for setups like that, it's there.
amazing.
Yeah. Fantastic game. So I highly recommend that. Check that one out if you haven't. But that's all I've been playing. I'm going to dive into Hirogami next, which is a
Mm.
game. I believe that came out yesterday.
It did.
Yeah. It's getting okay reviews. I think it's sitting in the 773 on Open Critic file last saw. So nothing amazing, but again, another one that we saw at the state of play. I was like, I love this
Yep.
art style. I love these type of games. Has a very cheap price point. I think it was like $20 when I pre-ordered it. So I'm gonna be checking that one out next. And yeah, it's just the flood of games we're in.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. Very jealous.
Just finish Hell's Us and then play
Yeah,
Shinobi.
easy peasy. I'll get it done tomorrow. I'll just wrap it up. Yeah.
Then play Shinobi. That's a quick, 8 to 10 hours. And then play Hirogami.
Uh-huh. And I've got to then finish Silksong before Borderlands comes out in
Borderlands
like
4.
a week.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what we've been playing, guys. Let us know what you've been playing in the chat. If I assume it's Silksong, but I'm always interested to hear what everyone else is playing, especially during this time when we have so many good games coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we jump into the topics of discussion for this week, though? I think I'm going to go first
By all
because
means.
mine's probably a shorter topic, and that is Helldivers 2 seems to be a success on Xbox. So this comes from Insider Gaming, who reports that Helldivers 2 has sold more copies on Xbox than it did on PlayStation during the first 6 days of launch comparatively. The Xbox launch obviously has been boosted by the Halo ODST content, as well as many other updates the game has had since launch. But Alina Insight has reported that the game has sold nearly 1 million copies in its first 6 days. That they're also reporting that if you were looking at the Prisoner Exchange, PlayStation Gears of War seems to have only done 241,000 copies. Even though they announced 1 million players, which would mean which Steam only had a few thousand concurrent, and then Game Pass makes up the other majority. So I got kind of two things to look at there, I guess. But Helldivers is what I wanted to focus on. Helldivers 2 success on Xbox. Sam, are you surprised at all?
No, I think I'm partially surprised that it's reached this higher number, reportedly based on Alinea, which again, to be clear, has a patchy track record of sales estimates. But if it's in that ballpark, even that's very, very impressive. And that's great news for Arrowhead. It's, inadvertently great news for Sony and great news for Xbox players because it means that they turned up, and I think that, as we've talked about, we don't necessarily know exactly what Sony's multi-platform push is looking like going forwards, but it's this sort of result that would give Xbox players the best odds of getting both old and new PlayStation games beyond live service. So, I think it's a win-win all around, really. But I'm not surprised. Like, I think we all knew it was going to do well. It's done maybe better than some people expected.
My first thought seeing these numbers was that is better than I expected, to be honest, even though I thought the game would do well. Like I figured it would sell 1 million copies. I didn't know it would sell, if reports are to be believed, 1 million copies so soon.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's what's really taking me by surprise. And I look at this and I think, well, if Sony is seeing this with a game that was released, a year and a half ago, right? Does this incentivize them to keep games and then give Xbox players a more polished product, such as what they're doing with Helldivers, to let that hype build on their own platform on PC for these live service games? At least I'm not even entertaining the single player right now. But for these live service games, establish a base, establish the popularity, give it to Xbox later down the line. Or are they thinking, well, if we had given this to them at launch, imagine how many more copies than 1 million it would have sold on Xbox? I think there's two mindsets there, and I don't know which one they're going to go with. I would lean more towards, I think you go day and date with live service stuff. You want that install base. You want those players there at launch. And I think Helldivers, especially, there's a bit of a revisionist history, I think, going on where people seem to think Helldivers took weeks to pop off instead of the 48 hours. But pre-launch, there was no hype for Helldivers, right? I think we can all agree on that. We all watched the state of play, it's a Helldivers trailer, right? And the Steam, it quickly blew up. It became a phenomenon. It took over TikTok, took over YouTube Shorts. It kind of became the zeitgeist moment, right? I think having it on Xbox during the 48-hour, 2-week period when it was blowing up would have generated probably more sales than they're seeing right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting hypothetical. I would agree with you on the whole. I think that Sony and a lot of people might not like the answer that I'm going to give, but my assumption right now is that Sony is again going to do a case by case thing. I think that in all likelihood, live service stuff, whatever it is, will probably be day and date. Mitigate risk as much as possible. Try and secure sales up front without the risk of maybe the community souring on a game or player base dropping off or whatever before you can get an Xbox version out. But I think there is also a realm, and Helldivers itself is kind of emblematic of this, where that's the issue. Like I was going to say, if there is indications prior to launch that there is actual meaningful hype around a live service, which seems unfathomable currently, but you never know. Maybe there is a justification in Sony's mind to do more of the second wind strategy, where they give PC and PlayStation, and then it might not be a year or more, it might be 6 months or less. It could be a bit experimental with it, and then give it to Xbox with the launch of let's say the first major content update or something like that, or a brand new season that introduces tons of new features. I think that there's scope for that as well, but I think that the safest bet, which is most likely what Sony is more interested in currently, especially with the live service stuff, is to just get as much money as they can. And like you say, that means day and date.
Yeah, I'll be very interested to see what approach they take. Obviously, we know that Marathon is currently scheduled to be day one on Xbox. That has long been an announcement. We saw that Haven Studio just lost their creative director or game
Mhm.
director. I forget which one. Um, he went to WB, if I remember correctly. So Fair Games, by all accounts, not in the best shape from some closed play tests. Remains to be seen what that actually launches on. I don't think we have any platform besides PlayStation. Like, have they even said PC for that one? I don't remember a splash screen for that or anything.
I don't think so, but it would be PC. I think the question for that game is, does it launch? It's
Yeah,
not
it
what
does.
it launches on.
Yeah. But I'm sitting here thinking, well, Marvel Tokon, right, is another one that is currently PC, PS5. I would think Xbox should at some point follow suit. Maybe that's one
Yeah.
that takes this Helldivers approach,
hmm
gets it at a later date. But it is heartening to see Xbox players showing up for PlayStation IPs, and whether that is because it's Helldivers and it had that zeitgeist moment. It is very Xbox coded with the shooters, the multiplayer elements. I would like to see how a single player PlayStation game does on Xbox. I don't know if we'll ever get that. I don't know how Sony feels. I don't know what their multi-platform strategy is because they don't talk to us. But I would be interested to see, because people are using this as a very much as a Xbox players do buy games type of movement, and I don't know if we can go that far, because we see things like Final Fantasy 16 selling, less than 100,000 copies right on Xbox. There's just games that Xbox it does well on, and there's games that the player base just doesn't care about them at all, right?
Yeah, it would be interesting as well. Not that we'll ever know, but what would the sales have been like without the Halo Warband? Like
That's an interesting point.
how much of a tipping point was that, where people were like, maybe on the fence and thinking about it, but then they saw that Halo thing. Yeah, and no shade at Halo players and fans, but like kind of starving for good Halo stuff right now.
Well, to be fair, it is only ODST. It is only ODST. It's not like
Okay,
Chiefs,
sure. But still, I think Halo players and fans are kind of in a position right now where they'll take whatever they can get. And maybe that is something that incentivized, maybe not like tens of thousands, but a amount of players into purchasing the game when they wouldn't have otherwise. I also think, like, on the flip side, retroactively, how would it have done in this time frame on PlayStation when it originally launched, if Killzone, for example,
Mm-hmm.
was a Warbond available at launch then?
I just
Would
don't
that
think they
have
knew
had a
what
bit?
they had, right?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. But if there was a thing that would have maybe roped in more of the PlayStation community right off the bat, in the same way that the ODST thing probably has done for a portion
Mm-hmm.
of the Xbox community, I think that would be interesting as well. Um, but again, yeah, I think that just boils down to the fact that um, I would say, regardless of what live service it is, it's probably going to be day and date. And I know that, like you just mentioned, Togon, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility where between now and the time it releases, there could just be a revision where they just decide,
Just add Xbox to
yeah,
the like how Indiana Jones had their like, hey, it's coming to Xbox in a few months, or come
yep.
to PlayStation in a few months. Yeah, yeah.
Especially off the back of this, I think that Totoki especially will be paying very close attention to this stuff. So again, like I said at the top, Xbox players have done the right thing. Like, they're
Mm-hmm.
giving themselves the best chance of getting more stuff, whatever that more stuff is.
Yeah, I mean that's what happened when Xbox games went to PlayStation, right? Forza
Exactly.
Horizon 5 is one of the best selling PlayStation games of the year. I know obviously there were some that didn't sell, like Pentiment, but
I bought
expectations
it.
in check, right?
We
All
don't want
right.
Gears of War though. Clearly, apparently, for some
Yeah,
reason.
so that's an interesting. I saw that in the article, and nobody's really picked up on that because I don't think it's really. I don't know how much we can read into it because, like I said, that's a much older game. It's not worth comparing to Helldivers, obviously. Like we
No.
joke about the Prisoner Exchange, but it is a remaster of a 2006 game that maybe a lot of people have already played if they were on 360 and then they went to PS4 after that generation, right? Like there's a whole list of reasons why that game isn't doing well and, apart from being a remaster, crowded window, the port isn't as good as it needs to be, like technically, right, which we talked about last week. Like there is just a whole list of things that could have contributed to that. Game Pass, the free upgrade, like I'm not reading too much into that. I did expect it to be better.
Mhm.
Like I thought this would sell millions of copies on PlayStation, and maybe it will eventually go on to during like down periods and once they've improved the game. But I'm a little surprised at the soft PlayStation sales.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because I might no, no, I'm not misremembering. They lowered the price of Reloaded before it came out because I think it was announced as a $40 thing.
It is a $40.
Okay, but I got a refund on part of my pre-order purchase
Huh?
because it told me that the price had dropped and I only paid 35.
Interesting. I don't think that's in the US.
Maybe that is a regional thing, but that is something I picked up on where maybe they were doing, I mean, obviously they were doing that to try and boost their sales, and maybe they realized that there were some issues.
Yeah, it's 40 in the US still.
Interesting. Yeah. So I guess that sort of this is a microcosm. It kind of proves the point where it is highly dependent on the game and specifically what ecosystem it's going to, and what environment that game is launching into, what's around it, that kind of thing.
I
There are
think
just better options on PlayStation than Gears of War currently. Reloaded, I mean.
yeah. I was gonna say I think the real test will be E-Day.
Yep.
Like if E-Day doesn't sell millions of copies on PlayStation, then I think something's wrong where the PlayStation audience is telling us they don't want Gears of War.
There's only one GOW on PlayStation, and it's not Gears.
Yes, all right. Yeah, can I just say shout out to the live chat here, Rick Davis and Silkanet, just having their own little Silksong
They're just
chat
lost in
going
their own
on.
world.
Yeah, I love it. I look over every time. I'm like, oh, good stuff. Good stuff. All right, Sam. Well, let's jump into your topic now.
Yes.
So I'm gonna let you introduce this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have like a log line, really. It's just sort of talking about the state of play in general. We just had the Bond 007 state of play.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that game looks good, to be honest. I'm not sold even slightly. I was interested and that state of play sort of actively turned me off. That being said, though, we had Jeff Grubb saying there was going to be a state of play at the end of the month. That's been corroborated now by Tom Henderson. And that report came out in the past 24 hours saying that Wolverine is likely to show up. And I think that sort of, in my head, makes sense. I mean, I feel like I've said that about a dozen times over the
last
past
4
3
years.
years. But I think we are reaching that precipice now where they need to talk about things, and we know of things that have to be spoken about. So Wolverine, what I assume will be like the closer for the state of play, as like a re-reveal first party stinger that they like to do at the end of state of plays now. I just wanted to talk about, do we think it's likely? Is there going to be, I mean, in Tom Henderson's article, it said that like, what else could be at the state of play? And they mentioned Marathon, they mentioned the 2.5D Metroidvania God of War. They talked about Intergalactic. It was like, whoa, hold your horses. That's beginning to sound like, Kev. That's beginning to sound like a showcase.
Yeah. So, in terms of state of play, I think I was personally let down when they announced the James Bond state of play, right? And saying, hey, we're going to do a 30-minute deep dive on this one game, which I'm not particularly interested in. When it was revealed, it didn't do anything for me. I see Rick Davis here. He says, I thought it looked amazing at times. Combat, especially the hand-to-hand playing, okay at times. Investigation looks like mid Hitman, and awful at times driving. Um,
Mhm.
I have seen this, and Silken, it says for the Bond, the thing that really bothered me was the faces, the animation super stiff. Obviously, they did date this. It comes out in about 6 months, right? So this is another 2026 game. I think their reaction is kind of what I've been seeing across the internet, where people are really into it, like they're sold on James Bond, whether that's they love the IP, they actually liked what IO is showing, or they just trust IO as the Hitman developers, right? Personally, not a game for me, so I was disappointed when they announced that showcase. To hear now new rumors of, hey guys, that wasn't the showcase we were talking about. There's another one coming end of September. And this one is going to be the one you were all looking forward to. It's going to have Wolverine, which you've been excited about for years at this point. I know I have, because I like Spider-Man. The games aren't really my thing. I know, yeah, you, Kyle, everyone else loves Spider-Man games. Wolverine is a superhero I much prefer. Like, I
Mhm.
love Wolverine. He was one of my favorites growing up, especially in the X-Men cartoon. So I've been sold on Wolverine. I've seen the leaked gameplay, right? Where I won't go into it, but that kind of made me worried about it. What I saw, I was like, oh, this doesn't really look like Insomniac, right? This looks
Sure.
like another PlayStation studio,
Mhm.
based on what they were showing. So I'm interested to see if Wolverine is here. Has it evolved since the leak, or is it really that's what it is? That's the game they're making? Because we know this game has had a lot of tumultuous development, right? People leaving the team. It's been clearly delayed. I don't think it was meant to take this long.
No.
So do I believe there's going to be another state of play? I think so. I think Sony knows that they need to talk. I think they need to show us what 2026 looks like. I don't think the Game Awards is really their last big event of the year, right?
Mhm.
But they're going to have one, maybe two announcements if we're lucky there. That's not enough to show us the whole slate of what we can look forward to on our PlayStation 5s, on our PlayStation 5 Pros, on PC in the next calendar year. I think a state of play in September has precedent. I think it happens in a few weeks, and I'm going to believe Wolverine's there, but if we watch the whole thing and it's not there, I won't be like super surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I've been on record saying that I think we'll see Wolverine this year. I think we do. I think if it's not at this state of play, which I agree, I think it is going to happen, then I think it will be at the Game Awards. Um, I again, call me a broken record. I can't see us leaving this year and not having seen it.
Mm-hmm.
It does reach a point where even if you aren't like ready to ship relatively soon, the amount of silence, like especially because we only officially have that one teaser from 4 years ago, it's like you need to just show something, a sign of life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we will see it, and I agree that was sort of like the ethos behind the topic for me is like again we've said this on No Limits since the last showcase in 23, where like they need to talk, they need to show stuff, and we sort of have mentioned in the past few weeks of the idea of in the lead up to GTA 6 people are going to end up buying new consoles, and
Mm-hmm.
even if you're showing things that are a year and a half out, you kind of want to bedazzle prospective customers that could buy a Series S, or they might not be interested in GTA and want to go to a Switch too,
Mm-hmm.
or they might want to invest in a PC. PC is less of a problem, I guess, for PlayStation nowadays, but they want to lure you in, because they'll probably have the marketing for GTA 6 anyway, which I guess could negate the need to show anything else. But also, if you don't show anything else, then it looks like you don't have anything for 2026, which we know at this stage is untrue. So, you know, they said that Saros needs to show its gameplay this year. We were going to get a look at gameplay. I don't think that's a Game Awards thing. I don't think that's big enough for the Game Awards.
Well, wasn't that announced at the Game Awards last year or no?
No.
I must be misremembering then. What
Yeah,
did
Intergalactic was at
Intergalactic
the Game
was Game Awards.
Yeah, Saros was
must have been the state of play before then.
Yeah, no, it was Saros was. Shows how long this year has been. Saros was at February's state of play. It was
this
the closer. Year? Yeah, for
oh my god! I thought that was last fall, and they were like, "We'll show you more in 2025."
No,
Jesus.
that was the closer for February's state of play, and they said that we'd see gameplay this year. So unless it's going to be at like Tokyo Game Show, which would be a weird place to debut gameplay.
They never show anything at Tokyo. Sony at Tokyo Game Show is such a nothing burger. Xbox will do their. I don't even know if has Xbox announced a stream for Tokyo Game Show this year. I
haven't seen it. If they have,
they normally do one because they'll say they'll have it'll be in Japanese. Phil will come out. You know, I'm Phil San, whatever. And then they'll show some Japanese games coming to Game Pass. Is really like, and then just mark it. I've watched the show. I woke up at 4 or 5 a.m. the last few years. I watched the Tokyo. I've live reacted to it. Every time it's literally just, oh, here's Forza trailer. Here's Indiana Jones. It's just a different language. And then they'll say, these games are coming to Game Pass. And they've had some good Game Pass announcements. Like I think last year was the Mana series. They've had Guilty Gear, like cool Game Pass announcements, but really not anything major. So I don't think Tokyo Game Show is a factor at all.
Yeah. And like, I guess, you know, well, other than the fact of Wolverine being vaporware at this point, until proven otherwise, give us a sign of life. I think the other thing is that of PlayStation's upcoming slate, I know Intergalactic debuted at the Game Awards, and Naughty Dog probably has that prestige. And I would also argue, not that I'm expecting necessarily to see it this year, but Cory Barlog's next thing. You know, I think having the splash of, you know, from the creators of God of War, or from the creator of God of War 2018 kind of thing, having that splash at a TGA, I think would be a big deal. But Wolverine at the Game Awards would also be massive, right? Yeah. In terms of exposure. Not that they'd need it, because it would be bigger at State of Play or Showcase regardless, but they need to show these things. You know, Saros is confirmed next year. Jeff Grubb, who has a pretty impeccable track record with PlayStation stuff. The 2.5D God of War was meant to be this year, got delayed to next year. So you would assume that's probably first half.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we're mapping out 2026, right? Ideally, the 2.5D Metroidvania God of War game, Saros. Do we probably Marathon at this point, unless they're really going to try to cram it at the end of the year? But I think Marathon is probably a safe bet for 2026.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like they said their most recent update, I think the chief financial officer for Sony said that the plan right now is still to launch it this fiscal year. So that would be the first few months of 26. Yeah. Could be delayed again. Could be, you know, cancelled. Not that I necessarily want that for them, but
then Wolverine. If we get those 4 games, one a quarter from PlayStation, right? Not to mention if they have any remasters or smaller games that we don't know about, right? I think that's looking like a good 2026 from PlayStation. Like that is enough to get me interested in playing on my PlayStation. Like, because I'll probably play the Metroidvania God of War game, because I like God of War. Wolverine's a day one for sure. Marathon I'm not playing actually, so scratch that. And then what was the other one I just said? Saros is I don't know about that.
I'll be there, obviously.
Yeah. I play. Listen, Here's the thing.
Okay.
I tried playing Returnal.
Mhm.
I played it co-op with Taylor,
Mhm.
and he was Taylor. I love you, buddy.
I mean, that was your first
not
mistake
good
right
at
then,
it. He is not good at that game. He was dying constantly. So I'm like, there's a world where I like Returnal if I play it with someone else and we like,
Someone that's competent, yeah.
progress through the game. Damn, we progressed through the game. So I think they have a strong 2026 lined up if those are the 4 titles that they're leaning on. I think the one thing that's throwing me off here is, well, they do say a mainline God of War is in development in the article. I think we all expected that. I don't expect that to be shown here. I think that's way too soon. But Intergalactic being shown, do we think that's 2026? Like I've firmly thought, and Savoy Prime, if you're listening, I'm with you, buddy. 2027 cross gen PS6 20. Like that's where I've been leaning with Intergalactic.
I mean, all the evidence currently is against me, right? Where in terms of the stuff that we know is supposedly really realistically meant to come before Intergalactic from other studios. There isn't a lot of space for Intergalactic next year, so it would seem. And Schreier put out the report going that no, it's 2027, that game. I'm still not fully convinced that it's impossible that it's next year. I think if it is next year, it is like the last couple of months of next year. The only thing really tangibly that I have that I'm clawing onto for dear life is that Druckmann specifically has said in recent interviews, and by recent I mean like sort of the last year, that he is not that he's like referenced this, but he's far more leaning towards the like Todd Howard angle with his games, where he really doesn't want multi-year lead ups from reveal to release. So if we took him at his word, I would have thought that we'd be, maybe at most a year and a half away from release, which would place it sort of in the latter half of 26. But yeah, I don't have anything else other than that. I would say Intergalactic is definitely coming out before the PlayStation 6 launches.
But there's gonna be a PlayStation 6 version. I can almost guarantee that, right?
Sure. But it will come after the fact, after the game initially launches. In the same way that I think pretty much every game, probably from the second half of next year onwards, will have a native PlayStation 6 version sort of ready to go at launch.
If the PS6 is really end of 2027, I think it's firmly possible they hold Intergalactic to launch alongside a console, because I think that is it's Naughty Dog. I think that's a system seller for a lot of people. I think that's a big thing. They can launch it cross-gen. They won't lose out on sales for people because they've already promised for PS5. It has to come to PS5, right? And I think the only thing that's holding me back, it depends on how the other studios are progressing, because I think PlayStation's studios have had a bit of a hard time this generation actually getting games made, and whether that continues or they're like going to have launch titles ready to go in 2 years, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, the thing that would dissuade me from thinking that they'd hold Intergalactic back would mean it would be because, and how much this actually matters is up for debate. Holding it for PlayStation 6 would mean that Naughty Dog hasn't launched a new game this entire generation, which I don't think that they want to have as a label ascribed to them as a studio. I think they would like that to not be, even if it's close and they're like, oh, but you only put out one game. I still think that to them, that is probably better than a sort of a stain of these guys took so long that they went an entire generation as the prestige PlayStation studio and didn't release anything. So I think that if they can get Intergalactic out for PlayStation 5 before PlayStation 6 launches. They will. And that also is like, again, heavily dependent on what other studios could be lining up a game as a launch title. Because, you know, at this point, I think there are a number of candidates. I think Horizon 3 could very easily be a PlayStation 6 launch title. I also think Spider-Man 3 could be a very easy PlayStation 6 launch title. As like the big heavy hitters. I think most others are off the board.
I'm trying to think back to the Insomniac timeline, which remains to be seen if that's accurate, because clearly one project that was on there is not happening, right? Like that it would have come out according to that timeline already. So I'm was Spider-Man 3 the next one up after Wolverine?
Well, it depends, because there were, in terms of the Insomniac leak, and this isn't really spoiling anything for anybody, so don't panic too much. The game that doesn't seem to exist anymore
is Venom.
Yeah. There were parts of the leak that suggested that was coming before Wolverine.
Yeah.
But there were other parts of the leak that were suggesting it was going to come after Wolverine. There were some slides in the leak, and it's hard to distinguish which one is the most up to date, that said that Wolverine was 26 and Venom was 27, to then lead into Spider-Man 3 as a prospective, I think, 28 game.
Interesting.
But if Venom was cancelled, then that means that Wolverine could have been bumped up a little bit, still within 26, but bumped up a bit. And then all of the other resources at Insomniac are going into Spider-Man 3, which again would probably fast track it. And in the same way that they launched PlayStation 5 with Miles Morales, granted cross-gen, I think that, you know, Spider-Man 2...
3 at launch would be huge.
Yeah, I mean, Spider-Man 2, up before Helldivers, was the fastest-selling PlayStation game ever. So, and obviously just the IP itself is a big draw. So, yeah, I don't think Intergalactic is going to be a launch title. I wouldn't be like gutted, but I think it would be disappointing if that was the case. Not that you're arguing against that either. So it's going to be interesting, man, because I also look at something that not a lot of people talk about or seem to probably care about, but like Horizon Online is another thing. Not that I'm talking about launch titles anymore.
No, but like when does that show up?
Exactly,
when do we get that information?
That feels like that should probably be out by the end of next year, considering how long it's been in development. I mean, that started in 2018.
That's one of those. It's one of those things that like I can see it just randomly like dropping a trailer and it's out in a few months, or I can see it getting a cancellation notice. So like, hey, we didn't figure out how to make this like work without committing the whole studio. Like,
I mean, but let's be honest. You know, with Herman Holst, he's not going to let a Horizon thing die. Let's be real.
Fair. Yeah, he's probably gonna say, "Yeah, Ben, what are you doing?
We'll fire half of Naughty Dog before we have to cancel Horizon game."
Yeah, God forbid. Not to say, listen. I just want them to finish Horizon, like get Horizon 3 out, wrap the trilogy up. Let's move on to a new IP.
Agreed.
Like I want to see where the story ends, because I did like Forbidden West story, despite what some people say on the internet. I don't care for the open world aspect, but I'm interested to see where they go with that. But I just want something new, and that's what I feel like we've been lacking this gen. And this isn't a new talking about, right? Like we have lacked new IP from PlayStation this generation. It's very much, oh, we're getting excited for another God of War game, right? We're getting excited for another Horizon game. I think Intergalactic, like, I don't even know if I'll play it, but at least it's something new. At least I'm excited to actually see what the game is and like learn more about it. I wonder, like going back to the state of play, like, do we get more information about Marvel Tokon? Because that seems very close to, I think that's early next year, judging by the like information I've seen of people that have been playing it. They've had Evo tests. They are announcing new characters. Like that seems like they're getting ready to release that game early into 2026.
Yeah, I mean the beta's live right now, isn't it?
Is it? Is it close? I didn't get into it.
I think it is running right now.
That's one of those things I apply and then just wait for emails and then never.
Yeah, but I mean, you're sort of just reinforcing the point that they have so much stuff to talk about now, and it's not even like hypothetical stuff, it's just actual stuff that it's not like you can't not ever talk about it. So you have to find a place to talk about it. And I understand people's hesitation to say that there's going to be like a big sort of blowout show of some kind, considering how the past couple of years have gone. But we are sort of reaching that stage now where, by hook or by crook, they need to talk about a lot of things. And I don't think that they can, with the amount of things that they have to talk about, I don't think that they can sparse it out in the way that they have done over State of Plays with like one big announcement at the end over the past 2 years. So I think the next couple of weeks are probably going to be quite exciting for PlayStation. So,
and Nintendo. There's a rumored Nintendo Direct next week too.
Yeah, but who cares about Nintendo? You know?
I do. I do.
Okay.
I do.
Apparently, there are lots of you.
Yeah, millions, in fact. Mario Kart World has a 94% attach rate.
Jesus Christ. What's wrong with you all?
It comes with the console.
I mean, yeah, true.
Yeah. Kyle put in chat, Herman won't stop till Aloy is the PlayStation mascot. Kids will buy a lot of plushies.
Ignore my Horizon Lego on the shelf behind me. I wouldn't buy it. I wouldn't buy it.
You would.
No,
Aloy will be there. Aloy
called out.
There.
We'll call out.
All right. Well, let's move into our last topic, our Patreon topic. If you want to be featured on the show, go over to patreon.com/savethegamemedia. Choose the tiers right for you. But for $1 a month, you can write into our weekly topic thread. I will pick one person that writes in to be the featured topic for the week. Everyone else, your questions are saved for the exclusive Patreon-only shared save episode that goes up every month. This week's topic comes from Sam Hall. Says, which game do you think deserves to win Best Indie this year, and which one will win Best Indie? My personal pick is Blueprints, but I think Peak or Silksong might be more likely. Talk about indie games. It's very fitting since Silksong, probably the biggest indie game of the last decade, is now upon us.
Yeah, this is rough, man. I don't know. I mean, as much as I love Blueprints, I just ordered the physical copy that got announced. I don't think that gets recognized at the Game Awards at all. No,
really?
I don't think so.
Oh wow, I would think that has a chance at some category.
I don't see it, and that hurts to say. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it's too competitive. I also think it depends heavily on how they define the categories in terms of the nominations.
What's an indie game, Sam? Can you give me your definition?
Ghost of Yote is an indie game.
Well, I'm half joking, obviously, because we had the whole controversy with is Dave the Diver an indie game, which I argue Dave the Diver is not an indie game because it's funded by a big publisher.
Yes.
Despite its indie stylings.
Mm-hmm. And also, like, not only have there been so many good indie games, like there are still quite a few that haven't come out yet that I think are also probably locks. Like, are we really expecting Mina the Hollower to come out and be like,
oh my god, yeah,
awful? Yacht Club's next game is like, that's gonna be nominated.
I totally forgot about that game.
Yeah, in pretty much every indie category, I would say. I mean, I see Sam saying like best debut indie. That is true. That is a potential. It could get a nomination, but I don't see it picking up any wins for certain, which is unfortunate.
Well,
which do I think
that just to talk about the best debut indie while you ruminate on that thought, I really do think it depends on how the Game Awards defines it, because are they going to call Expedition 33 an indie?
That is precisely the reason I mentioned it.
I get it's an independent studio. It's a small team, but they were published by Kepler Interactive, which is objectively not an indie not indie anyway. Like, I get it, but for indie categories, I really would like to see it be things like Team Cherry, where they're a 3-man team, they put out the game by themselves. Something like he brings up Peak, which I don't think Peak has any chance of winning any awards. I think that is very much a people call it friend slap, but that's a friend game that critics don't really care about, I would say.
I think Peak will get nominated in like best multiplayer, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't see it winning. I'd love for it to, but I don't think it's going to. I think depending on how Mina the Hollower goes, because I think that is a dark horse that could actually probably run away with it, depending on just how good it is. Which we all like know it's going to be good, but just how good. I think it's unfair, but I think Silksong is just gonna run away with it. I don't see how it isn't, considering how much of a sort of moment it is already, how well it's doing, how good it seems to be. Obviously, reviews aren't coming in yet, but it's going to be nominated in all the indie categories.
Might
It's
be
probably going to
for Game of the Year, right?
I think it probably will. I think it will be like the indie slot in the Game of the Year noms. I think it's going to be Silksong. So yeah, I don't know that I would want it to be Silksong. I think there could be an argument that it deserves it, but I think it's going to be Silksong.
So before I go further, I have to make a live correction. Silkanet, who I should have asked prior, because he is the indie expert in our community. There's quite a few people who love indie games here, but Kepler Interactive, did not know this, is actually a collective of independent developers that come together to publish games.
Oh no.
So in that case, I think
Expedition
Expedition
33
is in fact an indie game. And by that accord,
oh dear.
I think Expedition 33. Yeah, I was gonna say Silksong. I was right there with you. Obviously, Silksong, I don't think can win Best Debut because it's a franchise, but
yeah,
I think because of that, Expedition 33 now, like, obviously has to be put in the category, but if I have to make a educated guess with that knowledge intact, Expedition 33 will win most independent categories.
Yeah, I mean,
and maybe Game of the Year too. But
yeah, I mean, we're in accordance that game, like Claire Obscura is probably and rightly should sweep a lot of the categories this year, to be honest. But yeah, that sort of is a nail in the coffin, really, for anything else. I think
I get it. I didn't know that, because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, because I've played a lot of good, I would say, indie games this year, from like I played what's that game? Oh my god, why can't it it's made of clay, why can't Paper Clay, which is a 3D platformer from one developer. His name's Kevin. I follow him on social media. Fantastic game. Obviously didn't blow up in the mainstream. Like, it had moderate success for one guy. Great. But like, I think of that as an indie, like when I think of indie games, that's what I think of, and not things like Expedition 33, not things like Silksong, even though I know technically 3-man team, phenomenal job, but like, I don't know. I look even deeper, and I kind of want those things to get recognized. But it is what it is. That's the game, you know. Independent studios are all sizes, these teams. So Silkanet says this. To be honest, this year the whole Game of the Year lineup should be indie. I think a lot of them. I think they're this year more than ever. There should be more than one nomination.
Yeah, I think there will be, because I think even with Expedition 33, like Expedition 33 obviously has a nom regardless. I think Silksong probably does as well. I'd be surprised if it didn't. It just depends on what Silksong is booting out. Maybe that means like Death Stranding doesn't get a nomination, which I'd be upset about, but I think that most people probably wouldn't be. So like I also for like indie would champion stuff like Sword of the Sea and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I think that could get nominated for music, but that's not an indie category, obviously. So
Again, I think Expedition 33 might have
I mean, obviously Expedition 33 is going to win that.
wrapped up.
But that's the unfortunate thing. It's like I'm sure we can talk about it. It'd be nice for these things to be nominated, but Expedition 33 is just probably going to sweep most things. So
it's funny because like obviously we both love Expedition 33 and we think it should win a lot of categories, but I do also like think about the games that are so good this year that like I want them to get recognition. Is a nomination enough to be like I think of when Hellblade 2, I was like, oh, they deserve best performance, best audio design. And then she won, right? And I was like, oh, great, fantastic. They got something. It wasn't the best game of the year, but it was something in their category. But this year, I feel like we have games that have come out that is like, well, they just exceed in they excel in everything, so they're going to win all the categories. And I worry the Game Awards is going to be quite boring with the same people on stage over and over again. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good problem to have with how many good games are coming out and how fast they're coming out, and it's idealistically sort of a rising tide lifts all boats kind of situation. But it was the same with like Astrobot last year. However contentious that may have been, that swept a lot of categories as well. That I think people would have been happier. I know people would have been happier seeing those awards go to other teams and having like Metaphor get more of a nod rather than just, I think, getting one award.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how, like you said, that's how it goes sometimes. And I think Expedition 33 is, again, like I just mentioned with Silksong, it's just one of those moments where, for various reasons, not just for the quality, but for the story of how that game came together, how good it is, how well it's done, and also the sort of arty-farty thing of what it means potentially for the industry and giving that praise. I think that is probably going to win out above a lot of maybe more logical or compassionate sort of universal decisions in terms of the panel voting this year.
Mm-hmm.
So be interesting to find out, like you say, regardless.
Yeah, absolutely. Game Awards are in a few months, so we'll live react, and you'll be up till 2 a.m. or whatever it is for that. But
I sure will.
Yeah, it'll be a fun time seeing it, and we still have so many games to come out before. Who knows? We might have new Game of the Year contenders to throw in there in the coming weeks, right?
Fingers crossed.
But everyone, that will do it for our show tonight. Thank you for hanging out with us so much. Please drop a like if you haven't on the video. It really does help us out here on YouTube, which I've seen some bigger creators talk about how their views are down and the algorithms mess with them. So it really does help us. Any interaction, any support you can give us, comments after the fact. Thank you all so much for hanging out. But Sam, where can people find you in the meantime?
People can find me anywhere and everywhere at Sam Heaney. That is Heaney.
And you can find me at the Muffin Mon everywhere. It's a 1-7I, 0-7A. Follow us at Save the Game Media over on Blue Sky. I should really change the bottom corner. It says at Save Game Media, which is our Twitter handle. I should really change it to our Blue Sky one because I barely post on Twitter these days. I'm skeeting. I'm skeeting, as the kids call it.
Never say that again.
That's what they call it. That's what
right,
I saw someone say re-skeeting the other day, and I was like, oh God, we're getting into dangerous territory here on Blue
I feel
Sky.
nauseous.
Well, everyone, we'll see you next week. Goodbye.